The Delaware Supreme Court is in for a major overhaul, and another Republican may be running for governor. This is the Delaware Way. Hello and welcome to the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti. The shape of the Delaware Supreme Court is about to dramatically change, with 4 justices retiring in just the last 15 months. So what does that mean to the state of Delaware, and what is the process of nominating new judges? To discuss that is Larry Hamermesh, who is a Widener Law professor. Thank you, sir, for being here. And Greg Lavelle, who is the Senate Minority Leader. Thank you, sir, and congratulations on retaining your leadership position.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Let's talk about this. I don't think a lot of people pay attention to judicial nominations if it's not at the very top at the U.S. Supreme Court. But it is extremely important. Did you explain why this is so important?
Sure. It's a very important process, whether it's a Superior Court judge, a Chancery Court judge, or a Delaware Supreme Court judge. They all play critical roles in the justice system, in Delaware's business climate, and with Chancery Court judges, and then the appellate role that the Supreme Court judges play. And I've come to learn over the years that they do a lot more than that with some of the committees and other issues that they work on that may turn into legislation, whether it be criminal justice reform or issues around Delaware corporate law. So they really are important jobs that cover a whole range of issues.
Yeah, shouldn't people be paying more attention to this?
Yeah, I think it's an important thing, although the Senator's right. There's a lot of stuff the courts do that affect people on the street, so to speak, the family court, criminal law, fender benders, that sort of thing. But Delaware is unique in having a set of courts that has national and even international impact. And that impact doesn't necessarily show up visibly to people who are just going about their daily business.
Well, explain that. Why do they have national and international impact?
About 60% of public companies in the United States are incorporated in Delaware. The Delaware courts basically supply the roadmap, the rules under which the internal affairs of those companies get conducted. And the courts are kind of referees over that, and they're referees over disputes that have national consequences. Again, we don't necessarily see that here on the street in Delaware, but it's hugely important to the state in terms of the business we do.
A taint of controversy, the smallest bit of controversy about Judge Vaughn being nominated and Judge Slights being slighted, pardon the pun. And many of the people that were commented on this article, and of course many of them were not even on the record, but were anonymous. Many of them said that this was politics, that it was partisan, that people were pushing him over the others, and it was Governor Markell's leanings towards wanting somebody from Kent County and also his affiliation with some Democrats in that county that led to this nomination where one person was chosen over the other one. Do you see any of that?
Someone's always going to be chosen over somebody else. The Judicial Nominating Commission sends up 3 names to the governor, so 2 of them are going to lose in every time. And the backroom dealings, if you will, and some of the theatrics that go on with it are always good for fodder and conversation and discussion. But you know, someone is always not going to be picked. And for that particular case, yeah, there was some geographic issues that were a concern. But no one can say that Judge Vaughn nor Judge Slights was not qualified to take that position. So,
yeah. The geographic thing is also a tradition that goes a long way back. As long as I've been practicing in Delaware, which goes back close to 40 years now, the Supreme Court has had representation from each of the 3 counties. And my suspicion is that when Governor Markell nominated Judge Vaughn to become Justice Vaughn, he was expecting that would be the Kent County seat on the court going forward.
You talked about this balance of power, the fact that you have to have Republicans and Democrats on the Supreme Court. That's just a title, though. What is it to say? I mean, in Wilmington, they're supposed to have a Republican on the city council. I don't think that the Republican on the city council is really a Republican. Isn't it easy just to go ahead and stuff the Supreme Court with one party?
I would rather have a balance of power in the state legislature, where I do think it could then be meaningful within the branches of government. But no, because there is a requirement that there be balance, so you can't stuff that anyway. I guess you could actually maybe try to stuff from a philosophical approach, but I don't think any of the judges, and Larry can correct me if I'm wrong, from his perspective, are rabid one way or the other.
But if I just wanted to get in the Supreme Court, I can just change. I can change from Republican to Democrat, can't I?
I think in theory you
the other way
could,
around?
although in practice people will know that you've just changed sides for purposes of soliciting an appointment. And I think people take the constitutional requirement seriously enough that a governor who said, I don't care, she just changed parties, now I can appoint her, I don't think that'd fly.
Yeah, and there is a judicial nominating committee that receives applications and does an initial vetting, so everyone in the world could send in their resumes. They narrow it down to 3 traditionally and send those 3 names up to the governor, and then he or she gets to make that final decision, which then comes to the Delaware State Senate for approval as well. And it is a small state. A lot of the judges or people who want to be judges are well known to the legislature, are well known in the legal community as well they should be. So there's really not many surprises to say, well, I've never heard of this man or woman before.
You don't see any problems with any of the nominations going through?
I have not, no.
Do you see any with coming up now with the? I mean, these people still have to be vetted, no?
Yes, the 3 names went up that's for the president judge of the Superior Court, right, and then Judge.
Justice Ridgely's retirement
Thank
is going to
you,
open
thank
up a
you.
seat,
Yeah,
and that has to get filled. So there'll be this process again where the Judicial Nominating Commission will get applications, will interview candidates, and then send 3, maybe 4, but usually 3 names to the governor. And I can tell you with absolute confidence, without knowing who they are, they're going to be people we all know.
And sometimes it sets off a chain reaction, because if someone from the Superior Court's elevated to the Supreme Court, then you have an opening on the Superior Court, which then maybe somebody from a lower court would come up to that. So sometimes it seems like it never ends when you've had such a number of people moving on to other opportunities in their lives.
So just wait. If you got passed over this time, your turn will be coming.
Ferris Wharton's a great example. Ferris put his name in at least 2 or 3 times and is now a very well-qualified Superior Court judge.
One last question. Are there any major cases coming up that this will affect?
I don't think of the choice of justices as affecting a case. I mean, if I thought there were ideological or partisan considerations in selecting a judge, I might worry about that. There are plenty of major cases coming up, but nothing that I think will be affected by the choice of candidates.
Okay, well, wonderful. I do think it's important to talk about this, though, because I don't think people pay attention, and it does have an effect. It has a strong effect on people's lives. So thank you so much for being here to talk about it. Larry Hamermesh, who is a law professor at Widener, thank you so much for being here. And Senator Lavelle, would you stick around for just a little bit? I just want to talk about some politics and the legislative agenda ahead.
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Okay, great. When the Delaware Way continues.